We hunting monsters today, hunting monsters, waiting for a plane to pass. Hello, internet friends, and welcome to Monsters Among Us, where any creature a little less than human is always welcome, even if you prefer feasting on the meat of your brethren. Family, friends, we don't discriminate, it's all human, right? So, all cannibals out there, here's a special episode for you. Please don't eat me. Today, I'd love you all to welcome a fearsome beast of the forests of North, a demonic spirit that preys on the weakness of man, and one of my personal favorite creatures of lore, the Wendigo. For many, the legend of the Wendigo began with author Algernon Blackwood. Considered a father of supernatural fiction, Blackwood's short story The Wendigo is anything but natural. And to add to the creepy factor, it's based off of his own personal experience hunting in the vast Canadian backwoods. No thank you. In the story, a group of men venture into the wilderness hunting moose, because moose. But what they find is a creature rooted in Native American legend, surely only imagined in the worst of nightmares. Or maybe not. Swift Runner was a respected Cree Indian, a hunter, trapper, and family man who adored his wife and children. They resided in Fort Saskatchewan in Alberta, Canada, where Swift worked as a tracker for the Northwest Mounted Police. But like any human, he had his vices. Swift developed a taste for whiskey, and it was said that when he didn't get his drink, he instead got angry. I can relate to that a little bit. Unfortunately, even whiskey couldn't warm Swift Runner through the brutal winter of 1878, when starvation plagued the community. He led his family away from civilization to their winter camp tucked in the woods to brave the cold there. Then the thaw came, but when Swift Runner returned to the fort, he came back alone and dodged questions concerning the whereabouts of his family. Suspicions and tensions mounted, and when authorities investigated Swift's campsite, what they found there, despite the changing season, turned their blood to ice. Bones, mutilated and scattered all around the encampment, some sucked dry of marrow. It was only when the police presented Swift with the skull of his dead wife did he reveal the horror that had transpired. With a fire burning and family near, the rough conditions seemed endurable, but the darkness that fell with the sun was deep, and winter was seemingly endless. Soon sleep was the only escape Swift had from his reality, but he found his dreams invaded by a sinister voice. Haunted by nightmares of an evil non-human spirit commanding him to consume the flesh of his family, he fought sleep, but eventually the voice slithered into his waking life until he felt himself give in to the entity possessing him. Swift Runner was the perfect target for the Wendigo. He was alone and stranded by winter, and as he succumbed to the creature, from within him grew an insatiable, primal hunger for human flesh. The Wendigo first ordered Swift's older son to murder and butcher the body of his younger brother, followed by his other children and his mother-in-law. Finally, under the influence of the Wendigo, Swift murdered his wife. The Wendigo then, still not done with the pain he had caused his victim, cut up the remains of Swift's family, cooked them, and consumed them throughout the winter. After his confession, the obviously stunned authorities arrested Swift Runner, who never denied his guilt, but he blamed the Wendigo's powerful hold for his actions. Unfortunately for him, the justice system didn't quite see it that way. He was found guilty of the slaughter of his family and executed on December 20th, 1879, in front of more than 60 onlookers, even though many of his fellow Cree believed he had truly been possessed. Swift Runner was no more, and the havoc the Wendigo had brought down upon his life ended with his last breath. But the Wendigo is known for its greed and its endless hunger and is never satisfied, so the chances of it never showing up again, slim to none. But if Swift Runner was truly a man possessed, what had taken over his thoughts, haunted his nightmares, and made them a reality? What exactly is the Wendigo? So it's clear from Swift Runner's case that staying out in the cabin in the woods, in the middle of winter, with food shortage, and a cannibalistic demon stalking him was maybe not the best idea, but the Wendigo that allegedly possessed Swift Runner was only one version of the Wendigo. Yeah, there's more than one of these. All the more reason to lock yourself indoors. Native American groups located in the Great Lakes region of the northern United States and Canada are the main force behind the origin of this beast, but their variations of the creature differ in everything from the spelling of its name to its appearance, though most translations of the word pretty much amount to the evil spirit that devours mankind, and most traditions agree it is an insidious, cannibalistic, supernatural entity. In Algonquin native lore, the Wendigo is an ice giant with a skeletal and deformed stature, and he has no toes or lips. However, the Ojibwe add that he has jagged teeth and is so emaciated its bones are visible, pushing through its ashen-colored skin. Its other physical attributes vary depending on the culture, everything from having large, sunken, owl-like eyes and long claws to yellow fangs and overly long tongues. The point is, it's terrifying. The Wendigo hunches over despite its height, and in certain variations has the skull of a deer for a head rather than its traditional humanoid appearance. It cannot speak human language, so it only growls and makes guttural noises. It is also known to breathe with a strange hiss, much the same way I do after I've run a mile, or jogged a mile, or walked at a relatively fast pace for a mile. I'm not good at any of those things. It also probably smells much the same way I do after a run, which is like death, decay, and corruption. And also, like me, it's driven by a terrible, awful hunger for human flesh. Not the human flesh part, the hunger part. Now, you may be asking, how is the Wendigo a cannibal when it's not a human itself? Well, the Wendigo also has the ability to possess humans, influence them, and can even transform them completely into our neighbors, or friends, and family, and of course, the vicious cannibals that lust for the blood of loved ones. In some versions, the Wendigo carries the body of the person it consumed inside of its chest where its heart should be, and killing the host is the only way to rid yourself from the hunt of the beast, and many believe the only way to truly kill a Wendigo is to burn its body to a cinder with fire. Now, should you find yourself without a flame, you can panic a little. It's okay, go ahead. But don't expect that hiding will keep you safe. The more the Wendigo consumes, the larger it gets, and it is never satisfied, always searching for the next victim. Sightings were abundant near Rosesu, Minnesota from the late 19th century through the 1920s, and each time it was spotted, a sudden, unexpected death in the community was sure to follow. Even further north in Ontario, traders, trappers, and hunters claimed to have seen the beast near the cave of the Wendigo for decades. In my opinion, the woods are terrifying enough as it is without the assistance of supernatural, flesh-hungry ancient entities, and in the cold snow, the Wendigo is probably the last thing you want to encounter. But beyond all of that, the legend's origins are rooted in winters and hunger, and serves as much more than just a terrifying campfire story. So, the beast behind the legend, the cold hard truth behind the insatiable craving for flesh. Whether or not you believe it, the Wendigo is not only a horrifying concept of a creature, but it represents the struggles of real-life nightmares. Gluttony and greed and having more than you need, the constant desire for more, and still, after consuming, never feeling totally full or whole and pursuing your next meal, so to speak. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the creature is sometimes known as the spirit of lonely places either. Isolation is a common feeling if you experience a cold, harsh winter. You ain't going nowhere with the snow so high. The Wendigo is associated with cold and starvation, famine, murder, greed, and most of all, cannibalism, which for the people of the North was not only a taboo practice, but a serious, legitimate concern in the harsh winters. Many times these communities were cut off from food in neighboring towns by heavy snowfall, ice, and sub-zero temperatures and wind chills, leaving them scrambling for resources. And depending on how long the winter lasted, you were looking maybe anywhere from 3 to 5 months with a limited food supply. People at times resorted to eating their fellow man or woman in light of survival, which, in the legends, is how a person begins the transformation from human to Wendigo. You see the connection here? Don't eat your cousin, or you'll turn into a demonic cannibalistic creature made of sleepless nights. Even settlers in the area took the threat of cannibalism so seriously they incorporated the Wendigo into their own cultures. It's even made some stir in the medical community for its prevalence in northern cultures. There is even a term using the creature's namesake, and while its legitimacy is debated among professionals, Wendigo psychosis is considered to be a culture-bound psychosis that revolves around the craving for human flesh and the fear of turning into a cannibal, or rather, a Wendigo. Now, the disease is considered extremely rare and limited to the cultures of the North Americas, even though the legend spread its influence into its surrounding areas. And it's completely understandable why the Wendigo resonates, to a degree, among all cultures, because it represents something very human. The fear that we will literally be consumed by greed and an endless quest for more to fill some sort of void within ourselves, and thus be lost in the never-ending cycle of destruction of self. And worst of all, that we will feel we've lost our connection of our free will in our own demise. Plus, I think we've all been that hungry before. So really, there's the potential to transform and morph into a monster in all of us, and that is the most terrifying part of all. But seriously, don't eat your cousin. It can't be good for you or your chances in prison. That's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to see more creepy videos from me, be sure to hit that subscribe button and stick around, because I got more stories coming your way Sunday. I should have more of your scary stories up, which if you don't know what I'm talking about and you're looking for a few spooky tales, you can click here. Also, if you like, you can follow me on social media. I have a Snapchat, Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram, and most often used, a Twitter. All links will be in the description for that. Alright guys, I gotta go. My camera is dang. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.